Hello everybody, welcome back to another weather video. Today we'll be taking a look at a winter storm that's going to be affecting the eastern part of the US Wednesday through Friday, and then possibly a second storm that could affect once again the eastern part of the US, but as of right now it's not looking as likely. Up on your screen now is the National Weather Service, all the watches, advisories, and warnings up across the country. In northern Maine you have winter weather advisories for the storm that's going to be affecting you today and into tonight. The one that just hit the Ohio Valley yesterday, which was Saturday, the 12th of November. And then you also have winter weather advisories for parts of Michigan and New York for lake effect snow. And as you go down into the south here, you see two different shades of blue. One that's dark in central Alabama, and one that's light in central and northern Georgia. The lighter one is a freeze watch, and the darker one is a freeze warning. And if you go back into the mid-Atlantic, you can see that you also have a freeze warning for Baltimore, Washington, and rest of Maryland, and northeastern part of Virginia. And if we go into New York City metro region, you can see on Long Island, you also have a freeze watch for that region as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All the watches and warnings and advisories up. And finally, just one more thing. Alaska still has our winter storm warnings and advisories from yesterday still up. And yeah, that is pretty much it across the country today. This is the brand new GFS, the 12Z run. And as you can see here, this is the storm I was just telling you about. You can see, as of right now, 1 p.m., it is all rain, right? But as the storm starts to strengthen a little bit and the cold front starts to interact with the system, northern Maine and western Maine switches over from rain to snow, and northern New Hampshire and Vermont and higher elevations in that region could get possibly 3 to 6 inches of snow out of this, maybe even more, depending on your elevation and where you are. And you can see as you go to 1 a.m. Monday morning, you can see the storm really starts to strengthen here, and then almost all of Maine switches over from rain to snow, and then eventually it starts to pull out. And then here's our system that we are talking about today, the one that's going to affect parts of the Ohio Valley and Northeast again. And if we continue on with the GFS here, I'll show you exactly what I mean. You can see it's, at least on the GFS standpoint, it starts to weaken as it exits Texas and goes into the mid-Atlantic. But eventually, once it throws its energy offshore, as you can see here, it really starts to get going a little bit more than what it once was. But because the GFS has it so far southeast, it doesn't really have that much strength to pull down more cold air, and that's why the GFS, at least for itself, has been showing a lot more rain than snow on the last runs. And then once it gets into the Gulf of Maine, all of Maine should be snow according to the GFS, because it really starts to get its act together, and you have lots of cold air coming down from Canada due to our negative EPO that is going to be affecting Alaska. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that storm. But after that, this is good. After this storm, it's gonna get really cold. Lots of lake effect. This whole region here should get a good amount of lake effect, including, let's not forget, the UP of Michigan, Wisconsin, the border of Michigan and Indiana, Ohio, the Cleveland region, of course, and parts of New York and PA. But if we widen out a little bit here and go to the continental US, you can see, look at this huge, and I mean huge, cold front that stretches all the way from almost the Pacific coast of Washington and Oregon all the way down into the southeast. This is a really, really cold air mass for this time of year. You can see it sticks around for a while, and then you have a little bit of a relaxation period right by Thanksgiving, but it comes right back into with these rounds and rounds of cold air, and that's as far as the GFS goes for now. Now, if we switch over to the European here, sadly I do not have the preset map for the 6Z run, but I do have the snow totals for the 6Z run. It actually did, in fact, tick up, and I will switch to the 24-hour snowfall because some of it in Maine is not from that second system. And you can see here, this is as far out as it goes, but you can see your 1 inch plus line is all the way back over here in this dark gray, and it actually gets a good swath of New York central PA and almost all of Vermont, actually all of Vermont and almost all of New Hampshire and Maine are going to get at least an inch plus out of this. And according to the European, there is a chance that you could get around a foot in the border of Vermont and New Hampshire. This is as far as it goes, 90 hours on the intermediate runs, which is a 6Z and 18Z. The rest of them, the 12Z and 0Z, go out to 240 hours. So on the next run, we'll see if it's consistent with this idea or it has backed off. But at least on the 6Z run, it really has increased the snow rate in totals. And if you want to take a look at everything, sleet, ice, rain, and then snow is in the bottom left. This is rain, this is ice, and this is sleet right here. You can see why it does have your 1 inch plus rates in here. This is and that area is where your moderate to heavy snow is, according to the European. In here, this storm shouldn't be too much of an ice event, but there's always that possibility with this because you have cold Arctic air to the north, and the cold air might not want to exit as the warm air starts to take over. So there could be pockets of ice just west of Albany and east of Albany into the border of New York and Massachusetts, around that area, and southern parts of Vermont and New Hampshire. According to the European, that could get some ice. Same idea with sleet. Same areas west and east of Albany, border of Massachusetts and New York, Vermont and New Hampshire. All in that area is, according to the European, is where you could have a chance at snow, rain, sleet, and ice. So once again, it could be a bit messy out there for some parts of the region. Now, I don't want to give a snowfall map just yet because there is still a lot of uncertainty with the system, where the track is, how strong it's going to be, how much cold air will be around, which I think there will be a lot of cold air around. But as of right now, tomorrow I would give my snowfall map. I just want to give it another day. But as of right now, anywhere in this light blue, this is your best chance of seeing accumulating snow. 1 inch plus, so that stretches anywhere from central Ohio all the way into northern Maine. And this is what the track I have is right now. This could shift either to the west and push this line back further, or it could shift southeast and it could push this line further south. There's a lot of inconsistency with this track as of right now. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's really not a lot of certainty with this, just because of all the models are different. Like the Canadian European give massive snow totals in Vermont and New Hampshire and northeastern part of New York and into Maine, while the GFS and the NAM recently not so much, but I will pull up the NAM just to show you what it shows. This is a 12Z NAM. It only goes out to 84 hours every run, and if we want to get it to where it is 7 p.m. Wednesday, I'm sorry, 7 p.m. Tuesday, this is where we look as of right now. Central PA is being a lot of sleet and freezing rain. Sleet is in the purple and freezing rain is in the pink, so that actually stretches down into the mountains of West Virginia and Virginia, according to the NAM. And if we want to continue, you can see that freezing rain and sleet switches over into northeast PA. And actually, central PA goes from sleet and ice to snow, and I'm guessing that's because the cold air is being drawn into the system from the northwest. And if we want to continue, you can see the NAM, at least on this run, brings the rain and snow line pretty far north here. That's because I believe the system is definitely not as strong as the last run. I just want to make sure I am correct on this. Let me back it up. Yeah, the last run was actually 2 millibars stronger. So you could see last run there was more snow. This run there's more ice. And if you want to continue on, you can see it gives rain pretty far north on this run, all the way into central New Hampshire and Vermont. But after this, once the storm goes by, you can see a lot of lake effect, tons of lake effect here. I think some parts of western New York, PA, and Ohio could get more out of lake effect here than the system, due to once again, lots of cold air and the winds due to the circulating motion of the system. it's gonna change wind directions to go over the lake, and I think, like I said, this some parts of the region could get more snow out of the lake effect than the storm itself. But just for fun, I will pull up the snow totals from the NAM, but expect them to be crazy. And they this includes sleet. That's why. Let me see if I can. Hold on. This is a bit more realistic, but even this, I think the snow is way too far south for what it's showing. It's just northwest of New York City into western Connecticut. But I like where it has the heaviest totals for now. In this region, I think we'll definitely have the heavier totals. Maybe shift the heavier totals a little bit more southeast, and then bring the 1 inch line up here. But I think overall this is not a bad map for what the NAM is showing. Now, if we take a look at the long range, yesterday we were talking about how the pattern change was taking place as you were watching the video. Well, today, definitely at least where I am in the Northeast, it is definitely a lot colder than yesterday. Yesterday it was 70, and now right now it's not even 50 degrees as I am looking at my thermometer. But yeah, this cold air setup is going to be dominant for at least the next 2 weeks and even longer than that, depending on what this new run that GFS shows you. We'll be looking at this together. But your red is your pretty much high pressure where you have above average heights, and your blue is where your below level heights. So that's pretty much where your cold air is setting up. And if we take a move on here, you can see you have almost off the charts ridging over here. This could set records across Alaska for the strongest. One of the strongest ridge is to ever set up here. And if we continue to move on, once again, this is at 4 a.m. Wednesday. And if we continue to move on, it stays there for a while. This comes into fold around 10 a.m. Tuesday, and it does not leave us. It's at least strength-wise, it does not leave us until 1 p.m. Sunday-ish. And notice how it's still there. It's not as strong, but it's still there. And you still have troughing in the Northeast, and you do have ridging all the way out into, as far as this goes, into almost 300 hours. And in the West Coast, you do have this ridging set up. You don't have that strong EPO, but you have that positive PNA setting up, if this were to be true. And notice in Arctic, you have above crazy. If this verifies, I think we would be December, at least in the first second week of December for the Northeast, would be brutally cold, because once you have a negative AL, and I'll show you what it means, a negative AL here, a negative AL, Arctic oscillation, this is when it's weak, and you get little vortexes that come down from the Arctic and bring cold air, colder air that what we are going to get this week. This is when you get your sub-zero temperatures inland and single-digit temperatures down to the coast, when you have your vortexes come down. And when it's positive, that's when your lower level heights are up there, up in Arctic. You can see the low here. That's when all the cold air is locked up and it does not come down. And that's usually when the whole country is warm at one point. And if you want to take a look at the teleconnections here, you can see how it stays towards neutral. Then all of a sudden it really starts to go down towards the end of the month. You can notice this one goes all the way positive and straight up crashes. And notice around here, a lot of them start to go down. So this, I really do think we will get a negative AL of some sort. And if this happens, expect very, very cold air coming for the eastern part of the U.S. And that pretty much does it for today, guys. Tomorrow I will be releasing another video giving my updates on the winter storm, maybe a snowfall map if I do have enough confidence in the track models. But besides that point, I hope everybody has a great Sunday and have a great day.